Good morning, John Wesley, here in the sanctuary and online. Turn to your neighbor and say, I'm glad you're here. For those of you that have not yet met me, I am Judy Morast-Morin on staff as your financial administrator, also known as short-timer by some. More about that later. Ken, thank you for your invitation to share a little about me with everyone here this morning. I was speechless when you asked me, and you know, for you and I, how often that happens very little. I'm very humbled and honored. I have to say that I'm very envious of the previous 4 camp speakers that I've heard: Noah Budolph, J.B. O'Neill V, Charlotte Downs, and Sam Murphy. Each of you shared a common thread of growing up in the same church all your lives, with fun, family, friendships, and your spiritual growth in Jesus. This very gathering place of God's love will be forever your rock and your foundation. I did grow up with a Catholic upbringing. Our family, my parents, and thus 3 daughters would attend church each week. My sisters, Kathy and Lisa, and I were each baptized, attended catechism like your Sunday school, and made our communion and confirmation in the Catholic Church. We would say a blessing at a family supper, and there would be a cross on our wall in our home. I would look forward to the times we gathered as a family, and many times with other friends, to attend Christmas midnight mass. This was a shared experience that brought me much delight. My dad was in the United States Navy, and he was transferred to many different duty stations our childhood, and therefore we were in many churches, schools, neighborhoods, and always meeting new friends and leaving behind our old ones. The constant we had as our family bond and the love we had for one another. My parents' roots are in Michigan, and we would look forward to every summer and some holidays to stay at my grandparents' home and busy ourselves with visiting as many relatives as we could. There are so many great memories and treasures of these times. We still go back as often as we can. The choices that I made as a young adult would take me into a selfish journey of ups and downs, sin, disappointment, loneliness, and depression. I had a void that I could not fill on my own, with multiple marriages, divorces, geographical cures, career changes. My life would remain in discontent. In 1989, the pivot in my life came from an introduction to Al-Anon, a 12-step recovery group for families and friends that have been affected by someone else's drinking. My life had become unmanageable. This is where I began my understanding of a loving God through the actions of others. My friends and I would talk about God and how acceptance of His presence in our lives would make life's toughest circumstances not seem like the mountain they did before. My prayers had many times been manipulative. God, I will start doing this or stop doing that if you'll do this for me. I began to form values and morals that had meaning in my life. I began to walk out a mutual loving relationship, praying to God in all circumstances, inviting Him to be a part of my day. I began to look at things as the glass half full. My choices were focused now about asking for God's will and not Judy's. I became willing to make changes in my life by applying the Serenity Prayer. I reached out and made professional counseling appointments to talk through my life's challenges and victories, and found much guidance to look at life with another perspective. The Serenity Prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. In 2004, I married David Morin, a single dad of 2 sons, and became the mom of our sons, David Jr. and Nick. Being a mom to these 2 men is the apple of my eye. I enjoy our conversations and every visit with them. While David and I dated, we attended 2 parenting small groups that would focus on a foundation of God in our lives. The first one was Growing Kids God's Way, and the second was designed for the teenager and the parents. The founder of this curriculum lives in Mount Pleasant and have become very good friends of ours. They showed us how to love each other and how to raise children in God's love. David and I became members of Seacoast Church, a non-denominational faith, and are also past staff members. We have volunteered in the church in many different areas. The growth we have experienced spiritually nurtured both of our souls and formed us in the people we are today. The friendships we have made with our colleagues and pastors are strong and lifelong. We began to hold hands nightly and pray on our knees together at bedtime. We are part of a small group that meets bi-weekly, studying the message that was given on Sunday or life's challenges. We have attended other semester groups that have been offered to fill our needs, such as Celebrate Recovery, Re-engage, and Financial Peace. We began to give an offering to the church. In the beginning, it was $5 weekly. That was what we could afford. Neither of us had a background where we were taught on giving to the church or an explanation of a tithe. We learned from others that shared their stories of how their giving changed their lives, and we began to pray and trust our finances to the care of God. We have only purchased cash cars. We have had no car payments, no credit card debt, saved for vacations, and added to our 403B retirement plans, and had a little extra to give to others in their crisis. I've learned to make amends, to ask for forgiveness, to say what I mean what I say, but not to be mean when I say it, to pause when I don't know the next right thing, to give compassion, to say thank you. God is so much bigger than you and I. His love is enough. This is where our love comes from. He is present 24/7. I just have to remind myself to lean on him in all circumstances. I have learned unconditional I have learned unconditional love through a God of my own understanding, and that he loves me even when I make mistakes. I learned that I am worthy of his love. You see, I grew up believing that God was a punishing God. He was not all loving, that I would never measure up. Nobody ever told me that. This was what I thought as a young girl, and it stayed with me until I was in my 30s. My word for 2024, I pick a word every year. My word for 2024 is courage. This helps me in all circumstances to remember that God is always present. Joshua 1:9 says, "This is my command, be strong and courageous. Never be afraid or discouraged, because I am your God, the Eternal One, and I will remain with you wherever you go." My 4 years of being on staff at John Wesley has continued to grow me spiritually and stretched me in my role of financial administrator. My first day of employment was March 16th of 2020, and 3 days later we shut the church down due to COVID. This affected each of us as we all lived out this unprecedented times of COVID in our work and our personal lives. As the church reopened, I began to meet many of you in person and fell in like and then in love with the staff and the members. I have witnessed John Wesley's famous quote in my life with you: "Do all the good you can, in all the ways you can, to all the souls you can, in every place you can, at all the times you can, with all the zeal you can, as long as you ever can." In August 22, my dad passed away. I was broken. My family was broken by the loss of a loved one. Ken and the administrative assistant, Cindy, rode to our house and visited our family at my parents' home, bringing love and hugs from the staff, the members of the church, food and paper products, and as Ken always comes through, sharing laughter, as he was stirring it up with my siblings and I. He prayed us through that afternoon. A week later was my dad's service. There were members of John Wesley that came. Some of you are here right now. And tears formed in my eyes. I felt love. You sent cards, gave to my mom's church in memory of my dad. You hugged me. You sent me emails, sent cards. You supported my family through this ongoing grief journey. You were God with skin on, and I needed that. I felt his love, and my cup was overflowing with joy. As many of you know, I recently have accepted a part-time remote role that will phase my work life into a semi-retirement opportunity that I simply could not pass up. My husband and I moved to Bono Beach in August of 22, exactly 1 week after my dad passed away. That was all in God's timing. We live just one street over from my mom, and one of my sisters has a weekend place just 2 doors down. I'm looking forward to spending more quality time with family, with neighbors in the community. I will continue working my essential job responsibilities at John Wesley and also make myself available to mentor and consult when needed during this transition. One of my favorite songs that brings tears to my eyes every time, like I don't already have enough, is Amazing Grace. And I'm not a singer, Margaret, so I'm not going to sing it. But I'm just going to give the first few lines because it explains exactly where I've come from. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. You see, I now believe that I am more than the sum of all my mistakes. I thank each and every one of you for your support and your love. I want each of you to know that you are worthy. You are enough. It has been my pleasure to serve alongside you. As you reflect on today, I hope that's something that God has moved you. And I want to leave you with these questions on your heart. Who first comes to mind that you need to show God's love with skin on? What are you doing with your time, treasures, and talents? Thank you.